Here's a question that's asked often. Why do I keep attracting the wrong person?
Ooh. When we are seeing that we're starting to date the same kind of person, i.e. a pattern, that pattern is usually pointing to something that we need to look within us. We're going to talk about dating in 2024, and we're going to talk about 10 rules for dating with intention, and we're going to give you a sneak preview of what to expect in the main course. So yeah, we'll go through about 10 or 11 questions, or maybe 12, and let's see what happens.
So dating in 2024, why is this topic so important?
So finding the right person that you're going to settle down with is probably the most important decision that you're ever going to make. So think of every other decision that you make after that, right? The house that you buy, the children that you have, the financial decision. So it's so important that who we choose is the right person. My stepfather once told me this great piece of advice where he said, 90% of your happiness is going to depend on the person that you choose to be your significant other. And so this isn't a choice that we want to take lightly. It's not something that we want to wing either. We want to be careful about it. And think about every other big decision that we make, whether it's starting a business, changing jobs or careers or whatever it is. Every major decision, we usually have advisors or mentors guiding us along the way. But for some reason with this particular issue, we're like, nah, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to go with my heart and I'm just going to see what happens. But what I'm trying to say is this is a decision that maybe we shouldn't take that lightly and maybe we should consult that approach. I think the heart is the most important part of this. But when we have unchecked emotion, it's kind of like chaos, right? Unchecked emotion can be chaotic, but the mixture of the heart, the feeling, the intuition, combined with some logic, is this meeting my standards? Am I observing someone who's actually meeting me at the level of values that I appreciate? Is this someone that I could build a life with? These things are important as well. There's so many times where we have intense attraction for someone or chemistry with someone, but they're totally the wrong person for us to settle down with, right? That's unchecked emotion. So it's great, lead with the emotion. We got to make sure, I always say your emotion or your feelings are a map or a compass, but check it with the facts as well.
So how do you discern if the person that you're dating is the right person for you?
I would say there's 3 kinds of attractions. So the first kind of attraction is the one that plays it safe, where it's like if you've been involved in relationships where it's been really extreme highs and lows, this one's the one that is it's going to be safe. It's not really going to excite you as much, but you're going to feel an attraction to the safety. The second one is the one that's notorious, which is the one that's kind of like, are you going to play this game again? It's the kind of attraction that's so intense that's probably based on something that we've all been there, we've all done that, we've all experienced it. It's the one that is like the really sexy death trap that you know how it's going to end, it's not right for you, but we just go into it anyways. I'm attracted. And then there's the one that invites you to grow. It's something that might even challenge you. It's something that we might need to look at ourselves and say, there's an intriguing connection here. It's not like anything I've quite experienced. I actually might need to step up to become, I don't know, maybe this is going to reveal a better version of myself. That's the one that I always ask my clients to look closely into. It's the one that invites you to grow. It's the one that invites you to expand. Because think about it, if you want to have a significant other, build a life with them, it's going to require you to go from where you're at right now to that place where you are bringing in this new life together. That's going to require change. A lot of people say, no, I don't want to change. You got to accept me the way that I am. But if you want something bigger and better, then it's going to require you to grow from your current position. And if there's someone who's inviting you to grow into that journey with you, then that's something worth looking at closer into. So that's the attraction I would say is made a little bit differently.
So speaking on confidence, what does true confidence look like? And what's one way to demonstrate this?
So there's a mantra that I use for anyone going into first dates, and if this works for you, use it. It's don't impress, express. Because the second you start trying to impress this person in this date, guess what happens? You put them on a pedestal. Already you've diminished yourself, and already you're fighting an uphill climb. So instead of that, focus on expressing who you are, expressing yourself authentically, expressing your values. And if there's resonance and connection there, then go with that. So express instead of impress. I would say true confidence comes from knowing what you're looking for and knowing what you're bringing to the table. So in that sense, you're not just showing up to a date hoping for the best. You're not showing up to the date trying to impress somebody. You already know what your green flags are. You already know what your red flags are. You're there to enjoy, experience, and evaluate whether this is going to be a good connection for you or not. So in that sense, we're just observing and we're experiencing, and the pressure is off. And when you have a sense of what you're looking for and the qualities that you bring to the table, that makes you a confident person. You're not there trying to win anyone over. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. Part of it's knowing what you're looking for. And if you're saying, I have a list and this is what the list is, and then you're going to say, but I'm not willing to enforce the list, then that's wishy-washiness. You're not standing up for your own values. What does it say about you if you are accepting less than your standards? I think this is very individual and very subjective. That said, there's a framework or a principle that I use, which is when coming up with your green flags, take a look at the qualities, values, and character of the individual. What on your list of green flags can correspond to these three items: character, qualities, and values? Now, we can have other preferences, of course, like looks, financial status, this and that, but these I would say are nice to haves. Put these towards the end of the list. It's hard enough finding the other stuff. And you already know it's not going to work if those three character, values, and qualities aren't there. It's not going to work. So let's not lead with the other stuff. And then I would say when it comes to the red flags, I like to look at it in a slightly different way, which is when you make this list of green flags, there's probably going to be like 30 of them or 50 or 100 or however many traits that you're looking for. Choose 5 non-negotiables, 5 that you know if those aren't met, this is not going to work. And so at that point, it becomes a thing of, okay, this person might show up with all these incredible quality traits, but if they hit one of those 5 that aren't there, are you then going to have the courage to say, no, this isn't for me? Or are you going to put on your rose-tinted glasses and be like, I hope this really works out. I really want this to work out because they're so charming, they're so sexy, they're so, they've got so much other going on. But you got to choose those 5 very carefully, because I always tell my program participants, you got to defend those 5s. You got to make sure that you are enforcing those 5, no matter how good everything else will be. So choose those 5 carefully. Everything on your green flag list should be something that your own character, values, and qualities are on par with. You should be reflecting these, because we're not going to be able to attract anything that we are not embodying ourselves. And if you do, it's not going to last long. It's not going to be a sustainable thing. So absolutely, whatever ends up on your list, these are traits that either must be present or something you're actively working on. How do you bring up your own red flags? Look, nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. And we're all going to have something that's going to be irksome to somebody else. That's just the nature of being human. Now, when it comes to our own red flags, I always say this, like there's a part in my 10 Rules for Dating with Intention where I express the idea that when it comes to the right person, you can't F it up, because the qualities that you're wonderful at, they're going to love that anyways, right? But the qualities that maybe, are a little awkward about you, they're going to find that adorable. Right. And so think about every relationship you've been in, especially in the early stages. It's like you can't mess it up. Right. You got to do something that's really horrible or really against someone's values in order for them to walk away. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is a thing of growing with somebody.
Do you agree with this statement? Be the best version of you before you attract someone into your life.
I don't like the idea that I often hear, which is you got to be absolutely perfect, the best version of yourself before you attract someone into your life, because then you're going to be like a monk forever. We're always going to be working on ourselves. Instead, can we go in and look at this as, hey, can I find someone who is going to appreciate the fact that I prioritize my self-growth? Can I find someone who is going to prioritize their self-growth? Can I find someone who is going to enable me to be the best version of myself, hold me accountable to the best version of myself? And can we grow together? That's more realistic approach, because none of us are perfect. We're all going to have our own red flags. The thing is, can we work with each other's red flags?
I think something tough for everyone is rejection. So how do you handle rejection?
How do you handle rejection? That's a big question. So I remember many years ago when I was recently out of a breakup, my stepfather actually gave me some really strange but good advice. It was strange in the sense that I've never heard it before, but it went something like this. So he knew the person, and he of course knows me very well. And he said, when you guys were together, it was like she was like a very nice brand, well quality, put together piece of clothing, like a top. She was like a very nice woven top from a top brand. And you are like a very nice, well put together brand article of clothing, like a pair of pants. And so when you put the two together, though, they didn't quite match. So you can have like a really good brand, I don't know, say one like Ralph Lauren, and you can have another great brand like, I don't know, Prada. You put them together and it just might not work. But it doesn't say anything about the value of each of you. You're both wonderful people. It's just together didn't work. So from that, the mantra that came out for me was, there's no such thing as rejection. It just wasn't a right fit. Everyone has different preferences. I can't be offended if somebody prefers pasta to kebabs. That's their preference. Both are amazing, but sometimes the two just don't go together. As good as they are individually, they're just not going to go well together. And you can't fault anyone for that. There's one piece of advice that I was given by a mentor, which really stuck with me, which is that some will and some won't. Some will be into you and some won't. And that's okay. Don't take it personally. Because it's a matter of preferences. Some prefer kebabs, some prefer pasta. It's not personal.
What if they didn't choose you? What would be your advice?
I think a lot of us attach our sense of self-worth to whether we are accepted in a situation or not. And when we're putting our emotions on the line, that's a big investment. And men in dating situations, we're expected to lead. We're expected to be the ones who are saying the thing first, approaching the girl first, saying I love you first, making the commitment first, and inviting the woman to then receive that invitation. So when you're at the forefront, it's less scary when you're on the other side of that and you're being invited into a situation. It's more scary when you are the one who's charting the path forward and you don't know what the answer is going to be from the other person. It's hard enough for me to go up and ask, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? Or let's take this to the next level, right? That's already hard. And then I have to wait for a decision. Was she going to come to me or not? So our emotions are on the line in such a powerful way. So of course, the stakes are high. We attach our worth, our sense of self-worth to it. So if there's a rejection there, we take that very personally. It must be because I did something wrong. Now, if we've worked on our self-worth, if we worked on the sense of, what another person's decisions or opinions cannot take away from who I am and who I know to be true about me, if we've done that work, then it's still gonna hurt a little bit, of course, but it's not gonna destroy us. We can look at it from a more objective standpoint and not let it take away anything from who we are. I can give a guy's opinion on this. I'm sure a woman would answer this very differently. But I would say if I was to give this advice to women, I would say when a man wants something, he's going to move a mountain to make it happen. He just will, especially if it's a significant other. He's just going to do that. That's just how we're built. So if a woman is feeling like, I don't know if I'm getting the right signals from him, one, you can ask for clarity. But two, I would say, just knowing men, that could be a sign that, to quote the movie, he just ain't that into you. I can speak from personal experience, which is when I really want something, especially in that arena, like, yeah, I want my interests to be known. That's something that I will fight to have that happen. And I've seen that generally that's the case for men, that if we really are into someone, we're definitely going to make it obvious. And think about any relationship you've been with in the past, like probably made it quite obvious.
So how do you tell the difference between genuine interest and love bombing?
I always say, let the emotions keep pace with the facts. If you're feeling a certain way, a certain excitement, certain passion about somebody, that's great. It's wonderful when we feel that. But also let it keep pace with the facts. Are the values being demonstrated? Are the character traits being demonstrated? Are the standards that you set being demonstrated? And what I mean by demonstrated, not them saying they are that, not you thinking they are that, them actually demonstrating it physically, you observing it happen in front of you. These are the facts. And then you allow yourself to invest more emotionally once these observations are present. Because then we might invest too much too early on. That's when we get in trouble, because then our expectations are unaligned. And so especially for love bombing, this can be a very narcissistic thing that somebody does. We get to be careful. We get to be wise about entering into any emotional situation. If I'm going to invest my emotions into this, I got to make sure the facts are there. It's like if I'm going to invest into something, some of my bank account, I got to make sure the facts are there and I'm just not buying it on the hype. I mean, some people do that, but that's called gambling. So are you going to gamble with your heart?
So nowadays, there's so many thoughts as to timeframes for certain things, but how long should you wait to commit?
There's a wonderful Japanese word called oibaitori, which is particularly relevant in the spring. And what this term means is everything flowers in its own time. Everything has its own pace. So I'm not a fan of these rules that say you must do this within the first 3 dates, then you do this in the first month, then you say I love you in 3 months, and then you get committed in 6. I mean, fine. These are some frameworks that people have come up with. If it works for you, amazing. Instead of looking at things on a timeline, can we measure things in terms of a love line? How much love is present before I feel comfortable moving forward? It's not about time. Time is arbitrary. Time is actually meaningless. What does it exactly mean? Like what happened in the relationship in the number of times the earth spun around the sun? Or are we looking to measure on a criteria that actually is meaningful, like love? So instead of measuring things on a timeline, can we measure it on a love line? And I think then this is a different criteria that we can actually feel into and understand, okay, has there been enough demonstrated here? Do I feel safe? Do I feel respected? Do I feel appreciated? Do I feel that the love is there for me to step forward with this person? There are a number of ways that you can discern. I'll give you 4 of them now. So the first one is your feeling. Your feeling is your compass. How do you feel with this person? Do you feel safe? Do you feel respected? Do you feel appreciated? Do you feel like you're having fun? Do you feel like you're growing as a person, right? So these are all very wonderful feelings. Of course, we want to feel wonderful around this individual. So number 1 is feelings. How do you feel around this person? Number 2 is, are you able to observe the demonstrations of this person's character, qualities, and values? Again, it's not a matter of hearing about it. It's not a matter of what we think we're seeing. It's a matter of, are we actually seeing it? Because then we know it's real. The third one is, are you able to express yourself clearly and authentically around this person? This, of course, requires you to be safe, feeling like you're respected in the relationship, but being able to show up and express yourself in an honest way and be relaxed in this environment that you've created with this person, that's a big sign as well of knowing that something isn't going in the right track. And the fourth one is, does this person give you the clarity of direction that you're looking for so that you're not guessing where you're at always? And now it's not always up to the person to give you clarity, but of course it's wonderful if they do. And if you're not getting it, you can of course ask them, hey, where is this headed? Or, hey, here's how I feel about this. How do you feel about this? The right person is going to give you clarity of direction. You're going to know where you're going with this person. I think we get to be bold and vulnerable. If we really want to move forward in a relationship, it's going to require that, right? Being bold and vulnerable. And vulnerability is the bridge to create a stronger union. You can't go deep unless there's vulnerability. And so if that means putting yourself on the line and fearing, is it too soon to ask the question, are we committed or not, or where do we stand? If that's how you feel, and if that's where you want to be in the relationship, at least have the clarity of where you're at. We should be bold enough to ask. We should feel safe enough to ask in this relationship with this person. And we should allow ourselves to be vulnerable, because vulnerability comes with courage. And the conversation can sound something like, hey, this is how I feel in this relationship. And I'm curious, how do you feel? And where do you see this going? If you need to be the one that leads that conversation, I don't think it matters who leads the conversation. If you're looking for clarity, be vulnerable, be bold, be courageous to have it. And I think either way, you're going to feel good, because clarity makes us feel good. Even if it's not the answer that you wanted to, clarity will still let you know where you stand so you can make a decision after that. And if it is the answer you're looking for, great. Now you're on the same page and you're both not guessing around this question.
How do you handle the first fight, or let's say conflict that may arise with someone that you're dating?
First fight. Ooh, okay. So your first fight is going to reveal a lot. And anytime we're dealing with our emotions and deep emotions, conflict or the first fight is going to be inevitable. And so in these situations, it's almost like it reveals so much about the person. And again, a lot of the character traits are going to come out in this moment because the emotions are swirling. And when the emotions swirl, things come to the surface. And so in these moments, either the best of us can show up or the worst of us could show up. And to maximize the chances of the best of you showing up, I have 5 principles that I like to cover in my program. They're actually derived from the Song of Songs that King Solomon wrote about his first love. And so these 5 steps of conflict resolution for harmonious outcomes come from this beautiful poem in the Song of Songs. I can't go through all 5 right now, but I'll go through one of them, which is in the situation where you're fighting and perhaps you're thinking the worst of each other in this moment, right? Because that's what happens, blinded to the best qualities. In this situation where things are tense, can you bless the other person? It's so hard to judge the other person and bless them at the same time. When you're blessing them, you're calling forth the highest qualities of that person. These are the qualities that you're going to need to see to navigate that conflict harmoniously. So whatever this situation or the person most needs in that moment, can you start blessing them with it? And for whatever reason, I found that this changes the chemistry in the air. I firmly believe that they do receive that blessing into the heart, but if that's too woo-woo for you, it will at least change your disposition. It'll make you into a much more calmer person who's showing up, and that itself is going to diffuse a lot. If someone's showing up to a battle with a sword and you're showing up with a flower, different outcomes. So something happens when you bless the person, and a blessing given is also a blessing received. Whatever you're blessing them in the situation with, you're activating those qualities within yourself, and you're going to have a far greater chance of a harmonious resolution to this. I think there's always a right time to have a conversation, and if it's too tense, maybe that's not the right time. If you can't avoid that, if that's not an option, and you are having that conversation, which sometimes happens, you're like, okay, we're having this conversation. I think stating your intentions up front is very healthy, and it reveals to the other person, hey, my intentions here are to strengthen this bond. You know, I appreciate everything we built up so far. This is not something I'm willing to be destroyed based on what we just went through. I would like to find a way for us to come together. If you state that intention up front, it diffuses a lot going into the conversation. Now the conversation doesn't need to be so much about you did this, you did that, but more about let's find a way to make this work.
Here's a question that's asked often. Why do I keep attracting the wrong person?
Ooh. When we are seeing that we're starting to date the same kind of person, i.e. a pattern, that pattern is usually pointing to something that we need to look within us. If it's a one-off, okay, it might be them. But if it's a pattern, then we need to look at ourselves and be like, what am I doing? Or what's the story going on here? And I'll give you an example. I don't want to mean that everything goes back to our parents, but I'll just use it as an example. For example, if our parents didn't know how to express love to us as children, or if our parents were, or caregivers were abusive towards us as children, then we might have developed a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism that either keeps out love from our life, right? And therefore we bring in those people who reflect inability to love or commit. Or we might have developed a coping mechanism where we see the opposite, where someone is just giving you so much all the time, love bombing, right? Or it might be someone that we attract that is reflecting the same abusive patterns. A lot of the ways that our parents showed up for us in our early childhood, we tend to replicate those experiences as adults, unless we heal that. So the pattern is an indication of what needs healing. And when we begin to heal that, then we no longer need that pattern to show up. It's done its job. It's the very thing that's calling your attention and saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. I need healing. I would say, there's a certain story that we told ourselves about who we are and what we need in our life based on our previous experiences. And this story is creating a need for this pattern to be there. When we can change the story based on the fact that, hey, we're adults now, we can fend for ourselves. When we change the story, we release the need to have that pattern show up, and then we can overcome. And so, in the 10 Rules for Dating with Intention program, I go through a specific process through which we can change the story and then start to release and then start to replace it with a set of beliefs that are going to create the kind of patterns that you would want to see in your life for where you see your life going.
So what are your thoughts to the different attachment styles and how are they relevant to dating?
I think people are looking at these attachment styles kind of how they look at horoscopes these days. Am I compatible with this? I like to focus more on, is this someone that I can work with? Is this someone that I can be vulnerable with? Is this someone that I can express the authenticity of myself with? Because then it doesn't matter what style or type or horoscope or whatever you are, you have a partner who's willing to work with you. And that's what you're looking for. Someone who can work with me through my best moments and the moments where I need some support, where I might not be the strongest in the situation right now, but I have someone who understands that because of my previous experiences or the stories that I'm working through and is willing to show grace and patience through my working that out and vice versa. This is where vulnerability really comes into play, which is whatever emotion you are expressing or whatever you feel you are needing in that moment, can you feel courageous and vulnerable enough to express that need? Because then if you are a certain type, your partner knows what you need. And if you are acting a certain kind of way because of that need, they have a good understanding of how to show up for you. We don't naturally know that about each other. We've got attachment styles to think about. We've got love signs to think about or love languages to think about. We've got horoscopes. Like, we got so many things to think about. Well, let's just keep it simple. Hey, this is what I need when I act this way. I know it's not the most glorious moment, but this is how you can show up that'll make me feel most reassured in that way. If I need space, if I'm avoidant, if I need space, doesn't mean I'm leaving you if I'm taking a few steps back. It just means for a few hours, I need to go read a book, be somewhere quiet, get my thoughts together, and I will be back and we will talk about it then. Or if it's the other way around and you need that reassurance, hey, like, this is how I get. If you go away, I think the world is going to end because you're leaving me forever. Maybe you can give me a little bit of reassurance before you go and we can agree to meet at a certain time and that'll make me feel better.
Can a partner make you happy?
There's that famous line in Jerry Maguire that says, "You complete me." And I think that line messed a lot of people up because the truth is you are a full and complete being. And I would say you are also responsible for ensuring your state of emotional balance. You are responsible for that. Somebody can add to your happiness. Someone can be the cream on the top, but they can't be the source of your happiness. Imagine if somebody saw you as the source of their happiness. It's a lot to live up to. You're probably going to fail. It's not fair of anyone to make you the source of their happiness and vice versa. You can't be that for somebody. It's a false goal. You'll never achieve that goal. It's setting up a premise that's going to be disastrous. So instead, can we ensure that we are doing the work that whatever we need to do to show up in as healthy as an emotional state as we can within ourselves and be the joy to one another, the cream on the top to one another. Because one cannot give from a cup half full. And if you are half full, you're not going to be able to give anything to somebody. You're not going to be able to be their cream. The overflow of your joy is not going to reach them and vice versa. If we have this, you are my everything, my best friend, my lover, my counselor, as Esther Perel so eloquently wrote about, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Our families or our ancestors, they grew up in a village where different people played different roles for one another. We went to different people for some reason in the last, generation or two, like somehow it's been all about the other person is going to be my everything and all, but that was not how it's supposed to be designed. I actually believe in taking healthy space in a relationship. Give yourself a little time off from each other so you can actually miss each other. Space is a beautiful thing. I think it's healthy to create spaces for missing each other in the relationship. It's healthy that we have some time to be like, I wonder what they're up to. I wonder what they're thinking about this. I would go back to the character values and qualities on this one. Are they demonstrating it? Because a man who is ready to settle down or a man who is ready for a certain kind of committed relationship, there are signs of that. And are you picking up on those signs? There's a wonderful quote from Maya Angelou, which I'll paraphrase, which is, people are always telling you who they are. They're always revealing themselves. Are we listening? Or do we have our rose-tinted glasses on and hoping that they are what we want them to be? I find that that's usually the case. That usually the very reasons for why something didn't work out, those same reasons were discernible very early on in the courtship process. There's this idea of if you play games, you'll be better able to attract somebody to you or make them think about you or make them miss you and things like that. And I think they're rooted in a lot of psychology, but like dark psychology. And we can even consider these things manipulative. Can they work? Absolutely, they can work. Is it healthy? Probably not. Because do you want to attract somebody from a place of authenticity where you are who you are and that is effortless? That is something that is going to be something that you don't need to contrive every time you're with this person. You just are. It's effortless. It's easy in that way. Or do you want to play that game in the beginning stages in hopes that this is going to hook this person, right? Psychologically have them think about you, miss you, this and that. But then guess what? You're going to be having to play that game all the time. Otherwise, there's going to be a bait and switch and there's going to be like, what just happened here? Now, all of a sudden, at what point do you want to reveal who you really are, how you really feel? That's going to feel inauthentic when that happens. If someone wants to play a game, okay, great. I ain't playing that game. I'm playing the game of authentic relating. It's the game I'm playing. Oftentimes, when people ask me, should I still see this person? Should I not? First of all, I can't decide that for anybody. That's up to them to decide. But I'll ask them a question. Is the game that you're playing with them something that you want to keep playing? Or are you like, nah, I don't want to play this game. This isn't really fun for me. It's your decision. Some people keep playing a game that they're not having a lot of fun in, and they're okay with that. But if you're going to play a game, it might as well be something that's activating the best parts of you. Wait, where did my beard go? So obviously this is post-edit me chiming in here, and I've shaved in the meantime. If you liked what you saw in this video, I welcome you to join my 10 Rules for Dating with Intention 5-week program. After having given this program around the world in person as well as group settings, I can guarantee you this is going to transform the way you look at life, love, and relationships. It will improve the character and quality of individuals that come into your life, and you will have the tools to step forward with greater confidence as you discern what is right for you and what is not. I welcome you to check out this link to see for yourself if what you see resonates with what you are looking for in your life. And if so, I can't wait to have you in the program. And if you prefer to do one-on-one coaching, that is something that I do as well. In fact, most of my clients are one-on-one, and I welcome you into that experience. Just check out my website, book a no-cost consultation, and I look forward to meeting you there as well. Until then, may peace be with you.